So former President Thabo Mbeki just went on a podcast and basically said, the reason the ANC is a complete disaster right now is because apartheid spies infiltrated the party and have been secretly destroying it from the inside for almost 20 years. And honestly, the level of denial and deflection here is so impressive that I'm actually inspired to use the same energy for my own problems. The economy collapsed under your watch, apartheid spies. Your party lost its majority for the first time ever. Of course, apartheid spies. I ate an entire family-sized chocolate bar in one sitting. Also apartheid spies, They probably shoved all the chocolate into my mouth and forced me to swallow it and rub my belly afterwards. Let me break down what Mbeki actually said, because this interview with former EFF MP turned radio host Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi on the African Renaissance Project podcast is absolutely wild. Mbeki was asked why nobody talks about how living conditions in South Africa were improving much faster in the first 15 years of ANC rule compared to now. Instead of saying, well, we made some policy mistakes or corruption became a problem, like, admitting you did wrong, Mbeki went straight to apartheid era denial. Straight to it. Saying they've been systematically sabotaging the country for nearly 2 decades. To support his argument, Mbeki pointed to the economic statistics even. Between 2000 and 2008, during his presidency, South Africa's GDP per capita grew by 28%, which was genuinely very impressive. Under Nelson Mandela, from 1994 to 1999, GDP per capita increased by about 10%. Then under Jacob Zuma from 2009 to 2018, it still grew, how? By 3.5%. What's wrong with you guys hating on Zuma? It still grew, partly because of the 2009 global financial crisis. You see? And under current President Cyril Ramaphosa from 2018 to 2023, GDP per capita actually declined by about 5.5%. So Mbeki's point is Cyril sucks, and look how well the country did under me, and look how badly it's done under everyone who came after me. The only explanation must be that the people who took over aren't actually real ANC members. They're apartheid agents, deliberately tanking the country, just like how Summer Sambit is a Kempton Park Hospital experiment, an MK Ultra experiment who was sent on YouTube to completely indoctrinate your mind. This is selective amnesia about the early successful years because they're afraid of the truth. Now, here's where this gets even more complicated and honestly kind of sad. There is genuine evidence that apartheid intelligence did infiltrate liberation movements. Former South African National Defense Intelligence Chief Maumela Motau, I think that's his name, made similar claims in 2021. Saying the ANC had been compromised by apartheid agents. He even suggested that former presidents Mbeki, Zuma, and Kgalema Motlanthe should form a team to confront these agents. According to Motau, Nelson Mandela had given Mbeki and the late Joe Modise the task of getting rid of the enemy agents using lists compiled from military intelligence, the special branch, and the National Intelligence Service, the NIS, but the task was not completed because the ANC is the ANC. They never complete things. But the problem with Mbeki's conspiracy theory, it conveniently absolves him and his faction of any responsibility for what went wrong. According to his narrative, everything good that happened was because of the true ANC believers like him, and everything bad that happened was because of apartheid spies who took over after he lost power. It's the ultimate deflection. There is no acknowledgement that maybe his own economic policies had flaws, or that the transition to post-apartheid governance was always going to be messy and complicated, or that corruption and incompetence can happen without a grand conspiracy, the irony is that Mbeki himself has been accused of using spy paranoia as a political weapon. Back when he was in power, he allegedly used the ANC security services to manage his political affairs and would denounce opponents as apartheid double agents to destroy them politically. It was a tactic that made him deeply unpopular within the party and contributed to his defeat at Polokwane. So now he's using the same tactic again, but this time claiming that everyone who beat him were the actual spies all along. That's like me losing in a soccer video game, like I lose in FIFA. And then I'm like, nah, the other guy was helped by his father. The fact that Mbeki has specifically suggested Jacob Zuma might have been an apartheid spy, pointing to inconsistencies in Zuma's Robben Island imprisonment records. The MK party as well, which Zuma now leads, has responded by calling Mbeki an attention seeker and conspiracy tinfoil hat theorist who's just bitter about losing at Polokwane. One MK spokesperson said Mbeki never even went to Robben Island, yet calls himself a freedom fighter, and accused him of being nothing but an opportunist. The whole situation reveals how fractured the ANC has become. You've got former presidents accusing each other of being apartheid spies and Tonton. You've got different factions claiming to represent the real ANC while calling everyone else infiltrators or traitors. The party that led the liberation struggle and governed South Africa for 31 years with overwhelming majorities just lost its majority in the 2024 elections and is now in a coalition government. And instead of taking responsibility or having honest conversations about what exactly went wrong in this country we know and love, senior leaders are pointing fingers like kindergartners at each other and invoking conspiracy theories. The sad truth is that the ANC's decline probably has much more to do with ordinary corruption, policy failures, internal power struggles, and the difficulty of governing a complex country with deep structural problems than it does with a decades-long apartheid sleeper agent operation. I mean, state capture under Zuma was real and devastating, but it wasn't because Zuma was a secret apartheid spy. It was because he and his associates were corrupt and looted the state for personal enrichment. Load shedding isn't happening because apartheid agents sabotaged Eskom. It's happening because the decades of mismanagement, corruption, and failure to maintain infrastructure or plan for future capacity have led to this. Blaming everything on apartheid spies is emotionally satisfying for Mbeki because it means he doesn't have to reckon with the possibility that his own leadership had flaws or that the ANC's problems are systemic rather than the result of infiltration. It's much easier to say we were sabotaged by hidden enemies than to say we made mistakes and failed to adapt to changing circumstances because we suck. But you know what? I get it. Accountability is hard. Self-reflection is painful. That's what real men do. It's much easier to find external explanations for failure than to look inward. It's much easier for me to blame some secret agents for me eating that chocolate than me just eating the chocolate. Ate too much chocolate? Apartheid spies put it in my cupboard knowing I have no self-control. Didn't go to the gym this week? Apartheid agents hacked my alarm clock. Failed to meet a deadline, you say? Obviously, that must be the work of deep cover National Party operatives who infiltrated my productivity. Shame on them. The difference is that when I blame external forces for my chocolate consumption, the only person who suffers is me, and possibly my dentist, and my wallet. When a former president blames apartheid spies for the ANC's failures, it prevents the party from doing the actual hard work of reform, accountability, and rebuilding trust with voters. In fact, what it does is it allows current and former leaders to avoid responsibility for corruption, mismanagement, and policy failures that have materially harmed millions and millions of South Africans. So yeah, Thabo Mbeki thinks apartheid spies destroyed the ANC. I know, as crazy as it sounds, the man genuinely believes that. And I think my mouth is personally responsible for the amount of chocolate I've consumed this week. Both of us are avoiding the uncomfortable truth that maybe, just maybe, we need to take some responsibility for our own choices. Like and subscribe to the Summer Sambit. The Truth Report is this close to 100k subs. Please subscribe to them. I made a race in like about 6 months ago with the Truth Report saying we're going to see who reaches 100k subs first. They're about to reach it first. I also got shadow banned, so that put me like way behind, but that's okay. Subscribe to the Truth Report. If you are subscribed to the Truth Report, but you're not subscribed to me, you are sick in the head. Wisdom is chasing you, but you are faster. Shame on you. And I'm staring at you through the window right now. I'll see you next time.